Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 3rd of September. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this Friday morning by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are we feeling this morning?
Fine this morning, Derek. A weekend without football to look forward to, so regrettable on that front, but all fine though.
Yeah, international break certainly seems to drag. There's no doubt about it. But plenty of Rangers news to get stuck into. Hi, first of all, to Billy, our magician, getting in touch as always. Good to have your company, Billy. Let's have a look at Alfredo Morelos coming out with some comments yesterday, reported on Caracol Radio, a local radio station in his homeland in Colombia. Just regarding the possibility of leaving Ibrox, he said, this is, I quote, "You heard a lot about my departure. That Porto or several teams that made a proposal but did not reach an agreement with Rangers. So my stay in Rangers continues and I feel happy. I started in the best way, scoring goals, and what is to come, that's important to me. The offers have been there and the agreement has not been reached with the teams. I am calm. I am a younger player. I hope that soon the opportunity to leave will be given. Here at Rangers, I have already been a champion, have made history, and we hope that it will happen, an opportunity to come out in the best way. Each player wants to improve each day and be in a better league and a more watched league. This league, the Scottish Premiership, has taught me important things in my career. I've started in the best way. The previous one, I scored many goals. Also, may it be God's opportunity and may a big step be taken soon." So it's not nothing new, I don't think. Alfredo Morelos has spoken about this before, that everyone's resigned, that he will leave at some point. I think everyone's relieved, every Rangers fan, that he's still with the club at the close of the transfer window. What do you make of these latest comments, Joshua?
Well, he says he's happy, so that's, and if he's happy, he's going to play well. So, as you say, it's an inevitability, and it's no secret that obviously Morelos wants to go to a bigger league, and he's right. He will want to at one point, I'm sure, go to the Premiership or one of the big five leagues in Europe because he's good enough, and he's still, what is he, 24, going on 25? Yeah. So he's coming into his peak years. So I think for me, Derek, you look at that, and you think everything is geared up from his perspective for him to have the best year, one of the best years of his career. And I think you see that in the way he started this season. And I think that only means good things for the club because, the worst case scenario would be a player moping over the field and then not playing to their full potential for a season. Whereas it looks like with Morelos, he does look happy. He's loved by the fans and he loves the fans, and I think he enjoys the environment that he plays his football in. And also he is improving. We've covered a lot on the site how he's improved his all-round game. Against Ross County, he received the most passes he ever has in a Rangers shirt. Just shows how involved he is in the entire team's play now. So for me, if he goes on and has a great season, gets his numbers up from last season, how much he loves Europe, has a bit more of a run in the team with Roof, and then is able to be sold on for a good price next year, all parties win. So, I think it was the 19-20 season, he'd scored a ridiculous amount of goals by January. That was when he was the top scorer in the Europa League. That's what he's capable of, and he's a more rounded player now than that season. So I think everything is geared up for Alfredo Morelos to have one of, if not his best season at Rangers, and that's great for the club and the supporters.
Yeah, Johnny touched on yesterday. You said he's much more rounded. Johnny seems to think that, there's been a lack of bids from teams down south from him. They seem to think that he's maybe not the complete finished article, that maybe his disciplinary issues that from a couple of seasons ago are still baggage that he carries. Are you surprised that we've not seen a team from down south come in before now, Joshua?
I think I personally don't think the disciplinary issues would be an issue because he's obviously solved them, and play. I don't think clubs will look at an issue that was too. Maybe they will, but you have to look at how he's improved in that area, and again look at the context and think, do you know what? That is evidently something that he's went away and worked upon, and that that's an impressive thing to do from what was a really bad disciplinary record and was it Gerrard's first season. So. I think that he doesn't have a great kind of succession rate in terms of the amount of shots he takes, the amount of goals he gets, and he's not a clinical finisher. You look at Alex Kurt away, there's your proof of that. And I think that's what works against him. Because if you go down to a mid-ranking Premiership side, or even a team that's 13th, 14th, they're not going to get many chances, or as many chances, and you're going to be up against better players, a better goalkeeper. So I think that's more what works against him. But I think then equally, if you look, he's a better instinctive finisher. I mean, look back to that 1920 season, the headers away at Feyenoord, other goals in the Europa League away at Young Boys. He is an excellent instinctive finisher. I think when he has time, when he's through one-on-one and goal. Even in the home game against Alashkert, you've seen that where he took it, felt like an eternity from the gantry, seeing how long he took to put it through the goalkeeper's legs, but in the end it was a good finish. So I think he'll earn a big move if he can keep the consistency in front of goal, and make sure that he, perhaps even when he's not going through his best spell of form, that he does get the goals up. And I think equally the challenge for him this season is to be able to contribute. Like his Ross County performance was perfect because he assisted Aribo's first goal. He contributed to the team's build-up play, as I said, 41 passes received, and was able to pull the defence all over the place, the opposing defence, created room for his teammates, and then topped it off with a goal. That's an ideal performance for his role in this team. But I guess if he goes down south, it'll be more of a, still involved in build-up, but more attention placed to the goal. But if he can have a season that he knows, he's capable of in front of goal, because he's done it before, he's done it on numerous occasions, and I think he's only 3 goals away from 100 Rangers goals. Then I think that would do some more convincing as well. I personally don't think his disciplinary record is really a topic of conversation anymore, because it's 2.5 years old.
Yeah, there's some interesting comments. Billy says it'll be interesting if we win the league and make the Champions League whether Morelos will stay or go. He seems to think he's not clinical at times. Callum gets in touch. We need Alfredo to win the league, otherwise we're not a team without him. I sort of agree slightly with those points. I think he's integral to this Rangers team still. He's massive. We've seen how much they missed him at that first leg against Malmo, of course. He's huge, and I mean, if they do win the league this year, Joshua, it's more weight for Alfredo to stay, knowing that he's going to be playing Champions League football the following season.
Yeah, and I guess that was always the plan. I guess with players this season that maybe thought, well, based on the European record, they thought we'll be able to get through 4 qualifiers. It's a difficult one, because you look at how much he loves European football and how much he loves. Gerrard said himself after the Antwerp game, I know why he loves this competition. And he said himself in those quotes he wants to play in the most watched league, so if he can play in the Champions League. Yeah. So who knows? Because, do you then go, look at where Edwards went to Crystal Palace, who are a big team, but they're not going to play European football, are they? No. But then I guess maybe Morelos goes for a year to a Spain or a France where he can play European football first. I don't know. It's a difficult one, but it's a good problem for Rangers to have. Because if you can get into the Champions League, the pool of that for players is enormous. And I think we would have seen that this season if we'd managed to get through that ill-fated tie against Malmo and then Ludogorets. So it will be interesting. But the most watched leagues is a revealing quote. And I think it marries up with what the manager said after that Europa League performance at Ibrox. Yeah, but before we touch on Calvin Bassey, folks, Ross has got in touch. He says, I really want Davis to retire from international duty. Ireland aren't qualifying for the World Cup. I want them to be fresh for Rangers. So they had a good result last night, Northern Ireland, and still strutting his stuff, still running the show. Joshua, he's an enigma, isn't he? He's one of a kind, Stephen Davis. I don't mind him playing for Northern Ireland. He loves playing for his country. And it doesn't seem to be doing him any ill effects when he comes back and plays for Rangers. Nah, he's never going to stop, is he? And complete fair play to him, because I think the thing is with players like Davis, although it's he got all the glitz and glam of being the most capped player in Britain, the only way you amass such caps is never taking an injury from a camp when you have a slight niggle, making the long trips to games where you're going to get beaten or you're already out of a qualification campaign. So I think he completely deserves to have the twilight period of his career. I mean, I don't know how Rangers manage his workload. In my mind, he must just never train because of the amount of games he plays and his energy. But I guess the thing is, it has to stop at one stage, as with every player. You look at McGregor this season, and he hasn't looked quite as sharp as some of the performances from last season, and he's pushing on 40, if not 40 already. So it does have to stop at one stage, but he obviously just looks after himself really well. Steven Gerrard played in the Premiership to 35? Was it 35? Yeah. So he'll I guess ideally for Davis, he has a manager who will be completely empathetic with the nature of playing top-level football at his age, and he just seems to keep doing it. I mean, I remember, Derek, I don't know if you remember this game. It was a 4-0 win over St Mirren. It was just after the month or 2 months after the forward and Davis was coming in the first season under Gerrard, and I think it was a game. There was 3 penalties Rangers got. I remember that because and Kent scored a last-minute chip. But Davis played kind of is almost like a roaming 8. And he had a terrible game, and everyone was saying, "Oh, we've signed him, and he's past his peak. He's never going to. He can't get up to the pace of it." And it just shows you, because he's gone on to genuinely hardly put in a bad performance in 2.5 years, and put in a lot of top-level performances along with that. So he's been one of the side's most important players. And when you do have to replace him, that's when the Champions League money comes in handy, because players like Stephen Davis do not come around often or cheap, and they're not easy to get to Rangers. So, yeah, but he's still doing it at 36.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Steven Gerrard. I spoke to Lee Feeney recently. We've got a piece coming out with him later on in the month, and he actually touched on Gary McAllister as well, which you forget about. He played in the Premier League until he was 40, so he could be Davis's role models as well. You forget that he played for so long, but he's what great players to look up to. Let's touch on Calvin Bassey then, Joshua. He's back in training, which is good. Of course, he missed the last 2 games against Alashkert and Celtic. He was doing really, really well since he came in for Borna Barisic, who has not had the best of starts to the campaign. It'll be good. It'll be interesting to see who Gerrard opts for when they take on St Johnstone when they come back after the international break, whether he's going to go with Barisic or Bassey. But it's a good headache to have.
Yeah, and I think there's a great piece on the site, Derek, by Blair Newman that looks at the different attributes of all the fullbacks, and with the fullback now being such a important role with the ball in modern football, and you know, anyone who watches Rangers will know how influential they are in the offensive game plan. It's so good to have variation. You look at Tavernier and Patterson. Tavernier in his earlier Rangers days in that championship season would just dribble past everyone. Now he's more of an established right back who is more comfortable crossing the ball in and is very good at that, and he's refined his game. Nathan Patterson has that infield move that's really effective. So you have different attributes that what I'd like to see at times in game, and we've not seen it much, if teams are hard to break down, I think the change of fullback will increasingly in modern football be a positive for managers, because they're so important in that wide area and providing width. You look at the same with Bassey and Barisic. Barisic obviously has a left foot and a delivery that Bassey hasn't shown with regularity yet, although he had some good assists against Dunfermline, who have had a pretty poor start to the campaign and were beaten 3-0 by Arbroath, so I don't think we can read too much into that. But again, there's variation there, because Bassey has that ability to go past players at pace. I mean, Barisic can go past players, but he doesn't have that same, I guess, one-on-one ability. He's probably better at creating space, bursting down the line to cross a ball in. So it's a good problem to have. And when we're going to play 60 games this season, hopefully, it's ideal. But I think if you look across the right side of the pitch, you know, Borna Barisic has earned that shirt over 2.5 years, just as Tavernier has earned it over 2.5-3 years with Steven Gerrard. And I think it's going to take more than a couple of performances to unlodge him, especially after the Old Firm performance. But again, as I go back to it, it's a good problem to have. And I think Bassey has shown himself at the start of the season to be a player who's really has developed in the areas he needs to, which is his final ball. And don't forget in the Alashkert game and the Dunfermline game and even the Ross County game as well, he was, especially in that Alashkert game at home, he was a real warrior up and down that left flank, and in the first half was the only one that seemed to be sprinting. So yeah, it's great, and another good bit of business from the club, because he came on a free from Leicester just last season, so another plus point there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him this season. Finally, Joshua, we'll just touch on something I noticed yesterday, and it sort of made me think. Robbie McCrorie, of course, has played the last 2 games because of the COVID outbreak, of course. No John McLaughlin or Alan McGregor. There's been some calls for him to keep the shirt going forward, given the fact that he's kept 2 clean sheets. And I think there's an argument for that, is there not? I think you touched on Alan McGregor. Maybe he's only played 4 matches. He's maybe not... he's of course he's getting on, but would you trust Robbie McCrorie to keep the jersey for the St Johnstone game?
Well, he's been on the bench in Europe, hasn't he? So I've seen some suggestions that he might be loaned out, but I think he's viewed as potentially the European understudy goalkeeper. I'm just looking at double checking there, and he was on the bench against Malmo. So, what I really liked about his performance, and we were speaking about this yesterday, was his pace off the line. And when we play a high line, one of the things that we haven't really had, and it's not that McGregor doesn't do it or can't do it, but he's perhaps not as inclined to, is to play that sweeper keeper role. And look at Liverpool, who play a high line, or Man City, and their goalkeepers are two of the best of the world. And one of the things they do really well is come off the line and close the gap, so that players don't have as much space to run in behind. You've seen McCrorie do that on a couple of occasions, but he was also really quick out to the edge of his box on a couple of occasions. So I think when you think about McGregor's best saves in the last couple of seasons, the Griffiths one that clipped the post, that kind of save, their goal line saves, and what Robbie McCrorie perhaps offers is again a different option. You don't want to switch your goalkeepers too much, but that commanding presence, especially at the edge of the box, was really impressive. So Alan McGregor saved 6 goals, are roughly above average by StatsBomb's goal saved above average metric, which is a lot of goals, and was the second highest in the league, only behind Benji Siegrist at Dundee United, who took on a lot of shots last year. And I don't think, again, it's not as easy as a player has one good game and then you forget all of the good things that Alan McGregor does. But obviously there needs to be a succession plan. It seems from the progression of McCrorie's career in terms of loan moves to now being on the bench, that Rangers potentially view him as a long-term option at number 1. And as I say, what I really liked about the performance at the weekend was how confident and composed he was. He dealt with what he had to really well, but he commanded his area well, and he was quick out of the goal line. And I think increasingly, Derek, as we develop this high line, as it becomes more natural in world football, what is so good to have is a goalkeeper that can sweep up and that can, benefit the defence, because they know that they can maybe even squeeze up a couple more yards because their goalkeeper is confident coming out to kick a ball, that we've seen in the first half when he lobbed one that was looking to go onto the toe of Odsonne Edouard. So again, another positive squad-wise. I know you were impressed with his performance on Sunday, and in a quite the occasion, he was a cam head, wasn't he?
Yeah. Actually, it really was. I was really impressed by him, and Rangers have always been blessed with terrific goalkeepers, and it looks like that is going to continue for some time yet, which is certainly good news. That'll do us there, Josh. You've got a piece out on the website this morning, don't you? Yeah, I do. It's a long piece, but hopefully a good piece, and it's looking in depth at some. So it's looking back at Gerrard's comments from pre-season when he spoke about tactical variety, speaking about some of the common traits of the Rangers tactical blueprint. So look at the negative traits. So looking at the cross-heavy tactics when Rangers go behind, when Ryan Kent comes deep when they're chasing a lead. How can Rangers develop their mid-block out of possession so that we don't concede goals easily, getting doubled up in the flank, which you've seen against Slavia Prague and Malmo. So it's looking at some of the areas that Rangers should be looking to develop, looking at the goals they've conceded in the areas they've struggled in going forward, and giving some ideas to how they might try to be solved, and looking at some comparisons again from different coaches. So yeah, you can check that out on the site, and we've got plenty of stuff keeping you Rangers occupied while there's no games until next Saturday lunchtime, I believe. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a number of great stuff coming your way, including over the weekend an interview with Tommy Muller-Nielsen, so keep your eyes peeled for that, folks. Remember to subscribe to the Rangers Review now for only £2.99 a month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and your weekend, and we'll be back on Monday morning.